So right now it's 2026. It's early 2026. It's like March. And last year I made a shit ton of games, a shit ton of visual novels, and I just want to take some time and make a video about the games that I made. So you can be convinced to go and play it and then leave a comment and help me make more gay ass games that you might like or may not like, and yeah, have fun. So the first one that I made last year was Love at First Bite. This is a very short visual novel starring my vampire OC, Gogo. And you play as a character who just goes up to a bar, sees Gogo, and try to date her stuff. It's very traditional, like dating sim kind of thing, but has a bit of a, freaky twist to it, as in Yuri, and also vampires, and also perversion. I made this VN with Godot and all the other future VNs that will come up later in the video. And I think this was a very good project for me to just kind of get into the game engine, see what feature it has to offer, and just playing around with it a bit more. I also released the game a week early to my monthly Ko-fi supporters, and then I publicly released it during last year's MomoCon, which I got to promote the game that just released to people at the convention, and it was pretty fun. So the story of this game is that you go to a bar, you talk up this beautiful, eerie lady, and then you see where the night takes you. You to dance on the dance floor, you to chat up, you to get some drinks, and then it has a different ending, like 5 or so. Depending on what ending you get, your fate may differ. Maybe in one ending, you might, just end this night as a just beautiful night outing. Or maybe in one ending, you might get your blood drained by this vampire and then die in the street alley. Or maybe in one ending, you get turned into a vampire. Or maybe in another ending, you might find yourself in a dark, damp basement with no exit in sight, and then you hear a door open behind you, and here comes that lady with blood dripping down her fangs to her chest and to her fingers, and then she leans into you and then whispers something in your ear, and the rest you gotta find out in my VN. Go play it. Have fun. Yay! The game is also playable in Korean because I translated it and I asked one of my friends to help edit it. So if you have any friends who knows Korean or just like vampires in general, feel free to recommend it to them. The next VN that I made was Gash Rabbet. I made this with my roommate Shar and our mutual friend Joy Dalet for the Toxic Yuri VN Jam. This was definitely an upgrade from my last VN with more functions like save states, unique UI, and better settings in general. And I think I'm very proud of how it all came out despite the limit of the game jam time frame. The story of this is that you play as Orion, a wanderer who slays gods with her trusty sword, Celine, and after slaying a local god, she meets a bunny girl named Sphene. You three both travel together and wander in this treacherous journey to find a new god to slay, and things happen. Sphene was originally a sacrifice for the god that Orion slayed, and now that the god is gone, Sphene asks Orion to complete the ritual for her. Orion doesn't like that, so she's just finding a next place to drop her off and move on with her journey. But with Sphene's advancements towards Orion, Celine, the sword that Orion carries, feels a bit jealous. She wants to keep Orion for herself and does not like this new addition to the party. There's a very traditional relationship triangle going on where all individual in this relationship is so toxic that not even polyamory can save this, and the way this gets resolved has 2 endings. I won't spoil it too much, but let's just say you either overtake hunger or the hunger overtakes you. There's a lot of toxic Yuri elements like unhealthy relationship, a bit of gore, a lot of yucky sound effects, and also a little bit of cannibalism. So, if you're faint of heart or under the age of 18, do not play this. If you're not, you're free to play this, and I hope you are a freak enough to enjoy our little freaky VN. The third VN that we made last year was We Belong Dead, which is by far one of our most ambitious and our biggest VN project yet. It was a submission to the Spooktober VN Jam 2025 and involved a lot of artists and writers for this project, and by far is our longest VN. Once it's released, it got a decent amount of reception where we were nominated for Best Cinematography, as well as some honorable mention from the judges of the jam, which was very rewarding, and we were very proud of how it all came out and the reception that we got.
I really liked the climax of that. It was very cool. You all should play it.
My favorite part of We Belong Dead is how they put Evil Stella in there.
So true.
If you guys want to get that joke, feel free to go play it.
The art direction, too, specifically in We Belong Dead, very good.
I honestly love seeing the callbacks to the old PC 95 style gameplay where the UI takes up a considerable amount of the screen. And people have a lot of fun with that. Tokidoki Tactical Squad also did the same thing. It's one of the things I really love about that aesthetic from that time. So I honestly loved both of them for that. So it was really good.
After we finished it, we streamed it on Twitch and shed some light on the behind the scenes stuff. I'll link the VOD in the description below if you do want to check it out as well. The story follows a scientist named Estella who just lost her partner, Sinclair, due to a science experiment. Shrouded in guilt and regret, she is attempting to bring her partner back from the dead, whatever means necessary, unethical science, magic, or otherwise. She has people around to assist her in this journey, her lab assistant, Teresa, and her friend Laura, but they simply do not understand the depth that Estella would go to in order to bring her love back to life. With Sinclair's ghost haunting Estella every waking moment, Estella must do what needs to be done. Break into a science facility for an artificial heart, sneak into a morgue to steal a fresh cadaver, or even sacrifice a life to save another. But at the end of the day, the question remains, would she be able to bring her love back to life? Even if she does, will she be the same person? It all remains unanswered until you finish the game. It has a total of 6 endings with 2 main routes, and if you do manage to see all endings, please leave a comment because we worked really hard on it. Next game that I made is not exactly a VN, it's a dress-up game actually. After finishing We Belong Dead, my roommate Shar showed me a jam called a Doll Maker Jam, where you would make a small dress-up game of your characters and just kind of publish it and share it. And I thought it was a very fun activity to kind of expand my game dev knowledge. So I just made a short dress-up game starring my vampire OC, again, Gogo, and you can just kind of dress her up and play around with it. It's very small, but I had a really fun time making it. I wanted to add more clothing options, but at a certain point, I just wanted to move on to a different project, and I also made like 70 different clothing for it. So I think this was a good project to just kind of start and just leave it off where it was. So now we're down to the 2 games that I made last year. These were all developed in parallel, so they were worked on at the same time. So this period of time was very busy and hectic for me, but I'm very much proud of both products, and I hope you enjoy it too. The first one is Return Machine.Love. It's a submission to the Robot Romance Jam, and it involves not one, but 3 different stories about robots finding romance. I feel like this project involved as many people as We Belong Dead. However, they were all working on separate stories, so I feel like the scale just seems a bit smaller. But still, it was a very ambitious project, and I'm, again, very much proud of how it all came out. The first story follows Rosette, a robot overlord who's failed to enslave humanity and now got put into a jail. While she's in her cell stewing over how these organic meatbags put her in this situation, trying to escape and get this revenge on humanity, she meets this peculiar little mushroom who happens to be another inmate in this jail cell. Now, this mushroom may seem ordinary, but is not just any mushroom, has a very special power to invade other organic creatures' mind. This obviously intrigues Rosette, who is not, in fact, an organic creature, and wants to enslave them all. So, as the two continue their conversation and find some common ground, they develop certain feelings for each other. Now, in humans' perspective, how they feel about these two deadly creatures interacting and bonding together, we'll have to see. But that's the first story. The second story is set in an apocalyptic wasteland where a human named Owen must venture through a deadly ruin to find enough scrap to continue his living. When he unfortunately encounters some bandits, a stranger hooded with green cloak jumps down and saves him in return for a power core. Owen, who always had a very keen sense and love for all robots, has a very strange feeling about this stranger. And despite the risk and dangers, maybe he'll go back to the ruins once more to find the stranger and see what he's all about. This one, by the way, is our very first yaoi featured in one of my games. So for all the Fujoshis out there, you're welcome. The last story is about a broken down robot who wanders around a deserted land. No life can be found, no robots, no motion at all. It's just her walking and walking, who knows to what end, until she finds an abandoned bunker. Inside that bunker is a terminal, and as she approaches the terminal, a text pop up on the screen saying, "Hello? Who's there?" I feel like this story in particular is a very good way to wrap up these series of stories, because if you read it, there's a very strong overarching theme going on. And the way this story portrays love by these machines who were never intended to feel love is very tender. And I feel like that resonated with a lot of people who played this game. So, if you managed to play Return Machine.Love, please show some love to all the writers, all the artists who participated in this VN. So the last game I made in 2025 is called GodGame, the narrative adventure. It's based on a tabletop card game called GodGame, which a couple of folks that I know made it for a tabletop simulator. It's a very wild card game if you want to give it a try. But this VN in particular was made for Robbie Dude's Art Jam 2025. I gathered a couple of folks in Robbie's Discord and we made this VN in a very short period of time. It's a very traditional, like anime-like card game tournament style story that follows our main character, Junior, who is an absolute mess of a lesbian, and her journey to becoming the best God game player there ever was. There are a lot of very colorful characters here, like Aurora, Junior's girlfriend, who is an alien, but not in the outer space sense, just she's from a different country. Delvin, who is a very sinister butler type character who is going against Junior and trying to take her down. There's also Bingo the Wolf, there's Yogurt the Clown, there's also Princess Diana, which is not even a joke, and just a lot of colorful characters in a very colorful setting and doing some fruity ass gay stuff. If you are already a fan of SoxBX or GodGame or any of those surrounding communities, I feel like you would very much enjoy this VN. If not, well, maybe you'll have some fun time just reading some very anime-ass dialogues and just having fun. Or at least I hope. So, that's it for 2025. I am currently working on different projects for this year, which I don't know when they're gonna see the light of day. But hopefully soon I can put out some stuff that many of y'all would be able to enjoy and look and oh shit, that's pretty cool, and point and share and all that stuff. I do eventually want to use this YouTube channel more, but making videos is hard. Hopefully, once I get enough time to do other projects and stuff, maybe I'll add some animations to it or just video essays and all that kind of stuff. I also have a Ko-Fi or Ko-fi, whatever. You can be a monthly subscriber who can give me monthly donations and help me make more funny stuff. Or you can buy some merch off my store, which we have stickers, we have some digital accessory for VR chat and stuff. So please take a look if you're interested and send some support if you can spare it. Smiles. I've also just been involving myself in other projects as well, like Sparkle on Raven V Animated. And I've been doing some translation for the Bunlith Witch Upstairs, that funny trans bunny web series. Or like Kalaokan, the yearly VR chat online convention that one of my good friends, Mar, hosts every year. And just generally all kinds of different stuff that you can find on my social media, which I'll link down in the description below. So if you want to see all the different work that I do and the gay doodles that I do with my OCs and whatnot, you can go give me a follow on my funny little accounts. Okay, bye!